Coming up on Need to Know Rochester, the city's two mayoral candidates have a few things in common. For one, they were both known to be good students, but also pretty mischievous in the classroom. A profile of Lovely Warren and Alex White is just ahead. Also on the show, should student postings on social media sites like Facebook and Twitter be monitored by school districts? This is happening in other parts of the country, but would it be beneficial in our area? We'll find out right now on Need to Know Rochester.
Rochester's news magazine since 1997. This is Need to Know Rochester.
Hello and thanks for joining me for this edition of Need to Know Rochester. I'm Helene Bianduti-Hofer. One California school district is taking on student bullying, suicidal threats, and drug use, among other issues, through a pretty non-conventional source, social media. The district has hired an outside firm to track postings on Facebook and Twitter by its middle and high school students for 1 year. Now, some critics call it an invasion of privacy, but school officials say the intervention is necessary after 2 student suicides in the past 2 years. So could a project like this be beneficial for Rochester area schools? And could it really help combat truancy and bullying? Joining me in the studio is Dave Dimbleby, superintendent of the Hilton Central School District, and Mike Johansson, a lecturer in the Department of Communication at RIT, and also a social media expert. And it's great to have both of you here. And Dave, I just want to start off by offering my condolences to you and the Hilton community. I know that there was a loss earlier this week for a recent Hilton grad, and just so you know that you are in many thoughts and prayers right now.
Thank you.
So in regards to this issue, Dave, when you hear about social media surveillance and the fact that this is happening in school districts, what's your reaction to this? And is this something that you would have ever considered for Hilton?
Well, I think we're really challenged by obviously new technology and new applications of technology, and that's an ongoing challenge that we face in schools. I was familiar with what was going on in another school district in another part of the country, and it was intriguing in terms of what they were doing and why they were doing it. But I would say that as I look at it as a superintendent of schools, I see this issue as not just a school issue, but really a family issue, a community issue, a student issue. So we try to rely on looking at that in that manner and trying to involve all parties in that, in terms of we want students to be responsible for their own management of themselves. We want adults to help in the community, whether it be parents, teachers, or community members, help students in managing it. At the same time, so we don't want to take that responsibility away from students. They need to see the responsibility. At the same time, we do have interests and concerns and needs to make sure that schools are safe and that students are safe. And sometimes we do use methods like social media to determine as a source of information, but it clearly isn't the only source of information we rely on. In fact, I would say to you that our most important source of information in schools are students, because they're having conversations with each other. And we tell students that if you're hearing something from a peer, or you're having feelings yourself, or you're hearing something that doesn't seem quite right, that you should be notifying a responsible adult, whether it's your parent or school, to address it. So I would be concerned about something like this. While it might be a useful tool, over-reliance on it may take away from other important individuals or needs as well.
Well, Mike, let me ask you, you're in that position, you're a social media expert, also an educator, so I'm sure you can see the both sides of this. What are the pros and the cons when looking at this issue?
Well, I think the pros are it is an insight. You can get an overall feeling of sentiment, if you like. But I think the cons are sort of, as we sort of was discussing earlier, it's a bit of a game of whack-a-mole, really. If you are monitoring 2 or 3 sites and students become aware of this, they'll just go to other sites. If parents ban certain sites, particularly younger teenage students are just likely to go to another site. I think Dave makes a very good point. I think it really is about parenting. And the one thing in all of this that I'm sort of wondering is, parenting changes so rapidly today. The skills needed, the things you need to know about, the things that you should be talking to your kids about. I mean, I have a 20-year-old daughter. I can't imagine what it would have been like had she been 5 or 10 now, as opposed to when she was 5 or 10. So perhaps one of the things schools and communities could start doing is educating parents more about what's really going on and how you talk to your kids about these things and the potential dangers. Yeah.
And Dave, I know, well, one of the things this school district in California is doing, they're monitoring the use of personal electronic devices, cell phones and iPads and that sort of thing in the classroom. And this is one thing that Hilton and other area school districts actually embrace the use of some of these personal electronics in the classroom. And so just tell me a little bit more about the social media policy, or if you have one at Hilton. I know one thing that was interesting, I heard you have a light, like a red light, green light, yellow light in each classroom, a poster, so students know when it's okay to use a device and when not to. So just tell us a little bit more about that.
A few years ago, we moved away from a policy of off and away during the day, which is how the high school principal referred to it, as an acceptable use policy. And we moved to that because, first of all, most of our students have personal devices. Two is, we're an educational institution. We should be educating children on how to use those appropriately, older students, as opposed to saying that they're not to be used at all. So we moved to that acceptable use policy, and you referred to the kind of the stoplight, if you will, the red light, yellow light, green light. So in the school setting, in hallways, in cafeterias, in study halls, students are generally allowed to use their personal electronic devices appropriately. In places like classroom settings, teachers manage that. So if a teacher could put up literally is a green light in their classroom, which means that students can come into that classroom on any given day at any given time and use their personal devices. And quite often those teachers are using those personal devices as a learning tool in the classroom. Some teachers put up a yellow light, which means that there'll be days when we'll be using your personal device, there's days we're not, and I'll determine as a teacher when that will occur. And then we have some teachers who have a red light, which means that it's off and away in their classroom. So we have found that to be really very effective. What we also found was, we surveyed students on that, and we found when we had off and away that 90% of our students were using their personal electronic device when it was off and away anyway. So we're forcing them to, kind of hide it.
Right.
And we found out that their number one person they were communicating to was their parent. So we thought the parents were obviously endorsing it from wherever they were. So we decided that we needed to make a shift. And what we found was, it really turned out to be very positive and very advantageous.
Well, let's take a look at something. WXXI's Carlette Claire talked with some high school students this week to get their take. What would their reaction be if their school district decided to monitor their social media accounts? And here's what they had to say.
If your high school principal was to check your Facebook page or your Twitter accounts, tell us how you feel about that.
I wouldn't really care because there's not a lot of personal stuff on there. There's just me just hanging out. There's not anything inappropriate that shouldn't be on there, because if it was, I wouldn't have it, because my mom checks my Facebook.
I think that is invading people's privacy.
Do you feel that it's okay if your principal was to? Why not?
Because that's my personal space. That's where I meet. Nobody goes in my Facebook because it's my Facebook. I made it.
Can you see in one way that it would be a good idea?
Yeah, it can, but that stuff's not on my page. I only add people that I know, so that won't be going on my page.
Well, helping out people that are being bullied to see if you're being bullied, like cyberbullied, or physical, or mental.
Do you see a lot of negative activity or drug or cyberbullying happening on Facebook or Twitter?
A lot of people are depressed about it, some of my friends.
So we heard from some of these kids, they see this as an invasion of privacy. Mike, I want to get your take on this. Do you think it is a violation of student privacy? What are your thoughts?
Well, one thing that the students don't seem to understand, and a lot of people don't understand, is if you're in a public space like Facebook or Twitter, it's a public space. You are not entitled to privacy. And I liked the young man there said, it's my Facebook, I created it. That's true, but you don't own it. And that's a big difference. And I'm quite impressed actually by the students who say they don't put inappropriate stuff up there, because that's one of the things I impress upon students all the time. If you don't want the world to see it, never put it up on a social media site anywhere, anytime, anyhow, because privacy settings can change, and they do.
We have about 15 seconds left in terms of finding an effective way to combat this. What do you think a school district could do?
I like Dave's point. I think the school district need to do things that they have students talking to each other. They need students to feel open about coming to a teacher or a staff member when they hear or see things that are inappropriate. I think it's all about communication. I think social media is just a platform.
Well, Mike Johansson, social media expert and lecturer at RIT, and Dave Dimbleby, superintendent of the Hilton Central School District. Thank you both for joining me today. And for more coverage of education news in our area, go to our website, wxxinews.org. Well, some pretty big news this week in the mayoral race for the city of Rochester. Mayor Tom Richards announced he is officially ending his campaign for re-election. He said family health challenges were one of the main drivers for his decision. So that leaves Democrat Lovely Warren and Green Party candidate Alex White on the ballot for November's general election. So who are these two candidates behind these two fairly different campaigns? I spoke with both of them earlier this week to learn a little bit more about the next mayor of Rochester. Here's a special WXXI News profile of the candidates. And first up is Democrat Lovely Warren.
I grew up in 19 Ford. With my parents, my mother and father and my sister, and I had cousins that lived right around the corner from us, and we would go to the park all the time, Genesee Valley Park, play tennis, play soccer, play football in the middle of the street, go on bike adventures. I think I was a good student up until high school. I went to number 4 school for a number of years. I went to Catholic school in the 3rd grade, and my dad, was really hard on us. I remember those days when, I would want to rush through my homework to go outside and play because I was really a tomboy. And he would say, nope, you have to do it over. If I scribbled on something, he would, make me start from scratch. And he was really about making sure that we took our education seriously. He had this discussion with me. He sat me down and said, well, I have a problem. And he tried to go get help many times. It wasn't until I was out of high school, maybe in college, that he really was able to shake the habit and, get the help that he needs. And he's been clean for maybe 14, 15 years now. And so I appreciate that. That experience, it really left me with sort of trying to balance out, am I going to be are we going to be homeless? Are we going to lose everything? And my mom, of course, was, battling her own illness. She had sarcoidosis. So there were days when we didn't know whether she was going to make it or not. After, dealing with stuff at home, you go to school and just, girl stuff. You just couldn't, girl and boyfriend stuff. And I just would fight. It wasn't until an administrator named Mr. Thomas, I think I was about a junior, and he said, look, you're smart. Why are you, fighting so much? And he really took an interest in me. He really said, look, you have a future, but if you don't stop, and you're going to be one of those statistics out there, in the streets, and your future is going to be over. And, you can really hurt somebody. And he really made me think about that. What your dad is going through or what your mom is going through do not become a victim of your circumstances, is really the message that he gave me. My grandfather was critically injured at working as a security guard. And we go to the hospital, and I'm asking, okay, well, what happened to the guy? Where is the guy, that did this to him? And, so my uncle, who's a state trooper, told us that, he had been arrested, and he explained to us what the process would be. And from that, it's like, well, I want to make sure that he pays for what he did to my grandfather. And so, then I started to watch Matlock and, pay attention to all these, legal shows that were coming on at the time. And, I said, that's what I want to do. I started working for Assemblyman Gant back in 1999. I did an internship when I was in college in Albany, and I was assigned to his office. So every summer I would come home, to work in the Rochester office, and we work on campaigns, doing door knocking, door to door, collecting petitions. And I think that that's how, I really started to see that there was another side to the law, the advocacy side, the lobbyist side, the, how different people, advocated for what they wanted. And how do you serve both constituencies when their needs are completely different? And so coming home and, graduating and becoming a lawyer, working under his tutelage, I was intrigued by politics, but I didn't think that I would run for office, but the opportunity just presented itself. The first time it did, I lost by 7 votes. And I always say, looking back, working with my grandmother, well, after I lost, I, of course, went to my grandmother. And she said, this is just not your time. And she said, you just got married. Because I got married 3 days before the primary election in 2005. And she said, you need to work on your relationship with your husband. And you need to, solidify that first. And so I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, Grandma. But looking back, she was right. And I should have lost because, I thought, look, public service, to me, at that point in time, it was about me. I had to learn that public service it's not about you. The seat belongs to the community. It doesn't belong to me. And there were many people that, that were scared for me because they said, look, you're young, you have time. And to me, and I would say to them, the city doesn't have time. And I said to them, look, even though all of this development is going on and I appreciate that, I know that I could serve and be an advocate for developers and work with them to make our city better. However, there's a completely different segment of this community that needs help. And they need a mayor that can function in both worlds. And I said, I believe that it was time, that our city just could not wait 4 more years for that. I'm going to work hard until all votes are counted in November. And, like I said, the seat belongs to the community. I hope that they'll come out again, that they will recognize that I do what I say that I'm going to do. And I will work very, very hard to make sure that not only our neighborhoods are taken care of, but our children, and also that we're able to bring economic development back to our city in a way that it once was. And so I just, I don't want to say, because I take nothing for granted.
That was a profile of mayoral candidate Lovely Warren. And next up is Green Party candidate Alex White.
When I was growing up, I had a lot of interests. I was really into sports. And the other thing I enjoyed was games. And the games actually are behind me now. So literally, I was as for a student, I would have to say I was kind of troublesome. I got really good grades, but I was very bored by school. And I would usually finish the textbook or whatever books were assigned within the first month of school, and then start bringing in additional reading on the subject. And I didn't always respond well to being interrupted by the teacher to go back to whatever she thought was important, because I had moved on. My college actually started at St. John Fisher, and at Fisher I got my teaching certification at Fisher, and then while working went in the evenings to get the master's so I could get the permanent teaching certificate from Brockport. And at Brockport, because I didn't have to do teaching at Brockport, I did history, which I found much more interesting. I taught at a number of places. I did a lot of substituting and ended up as long-term subs at places. What led to Bulldoze Armory was really a car accident. A longtime friend of mine who had recently gotten married got in a car accident, and he needed a new car. And we were talking, and I had been teaching at I'd been teaching at Webster, and all of a sudden they decided they needed a football field more than they needed computers. So I ended up without a job, and we both decided that, hey, we have a lot of game stuff that we could sell. And we went to a convention, and I don't even remember how much money we made, but it was a lot for a weekend. And we decided we could do this. We started doing more of these, and we'd drive to various conventions in like Buffalo or Albany or, you know. And as we were doing this, we'd talk about, hey, we should open a business. We should start a store. When I first opened the store, one of the things I wanted to do was sign up voters. And a lot of my customers are under the age of 25, and that's the most likely people in America not to be registered. And so I had been registering voters for a couple years when Ralph Nader decided to seriously run for president in 2000. I collected signatures to get Ralph Nader on the ballot in New York. And they said, you know, you've been supportive, blah, 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 how come you're not a member? And I thought about it and said, how come I'm not a member? And so I joined the Green Party in 2000. I had been 17, I believe 17, when I had first showed up at protests at Ginna Nuclear Power Plant about renewing their license. I had been a volunteer to help form the recycling effort in Rochester. And I had been environmentally conscious. But what the Green Party hit me with was an idea of, their idea of, I don't know, we call it now Main Street over Wall Street, but it's really sustainable local businesses. And that is one of my biggest things. I believe firmly that money cycles, well, I don't even need to believe this, it's a fact. Money cycles locally in an economy based upon spending. And if you spend it locally, a larger percentage cycles in the economy. And to have a party, the only party I'd ever heard of, support small local businesses as a platform in a national campaign was something that was really important to me. I had never considered politics. What got me into it was in 2009, friends of mine who were in the know walked into my store and said, you know, no one's going to run against Duffy. And I had butted heads with Duffy about a number of things. And I said, no, someone will. The Republicans. They said, no. The Democrats will have a challenge. No. He's going to run unopposed. And that really bothered me. We don't have a two-party system. We have a one-party system. In Rochester, if the Green Party wasn't running candidates, we would have a bunch of Democrats running against a bunch of Democrats, and everyone who wasn't a Democrat is excluded from the process. And I'm not certain I feel that's the right way to proceed. Now, I'm also running because there's a lot that I think is going wrong in Rochester. The biggest thing I think it's going wrong is how we develop and treat the citizens of Rochester. And there's a million great examples. I'm going to use Culver Road Armory because it's one of my favorites and around the corner from here. They spent $15.5 million. It's assessed at $5 million. And last year it paid $2,930 taxes. Really? Where is the community benefit? The reason we have to cut from libraries and rec centers and policing and fire and road repair is because we keep giving away, we keep letting these big developments pay virtually no taxes. The problem is we are letting a small segment of our population under the be non-contributing stakeholders in our society. And as a result, everyone else has to suffer. You know, there's a lot of other problems with policing and whatnot, but a lot of it traces back to our inability to collect tax money from the largest of our society. Well, you know, I plan to win. I don't know what I expect to happen. The goal is you plan and you work to win. Then it's up to the voters. Just running had a big effect. And, you know, that's one of the things that I see our political process, the genius of our political process is that someone's going to win. And that person's going to have to sit there and listen to someone else talk about good ideas they hadn't thought of. And either they can implement them and let other people talk about them when they run against them next time. Why didn't you do this? Or they can implement them. So either way, if I just keep talking about issues, I'm going to win. You know, Rochester will be a better place at the end of this, which is really all I've been trying to do.
That was a WXXI News profile of Rochester mayoral candidates Alex White and Lovely Warren. And for more in-depth election coverage and the complete statement from Mayor Tom Richards announcing the end of his campaign for re-election, go to our website, WXXInews.org. And that's it for this edition of Need to Know Rochester. I'm Helene B. and Duty Hofer. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for supporting news and public affairs programming on WXXI. We'll see you next Thursday night at 8 o'clock on WXXI TV.